Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our podcast, Your Ukrainian Only. Today, our topic is
transformation. We decided to call it in general transformation, and we are going to cover how Ukraine started developing as an independent and democratic country, because when Soviet Union collapsed, definitely no one woke up the next day and became an independent and democratic person in our country. Definitely it was a process to get rid of this let's say legacy way of life, right? Because in Soviet Union, people and the way of life was really different, and even it's hard for us to imagine how it was. I asked a lot my parents, but definitely even their stories just describe the situation, but I won't ever fail how it was, right? So, but we saw this transformation. It was on our eyes, let's say, yes, because we were born nearly the time where Soviet Union collapsed. So maybe we will tell you something interesting.
Yeah, actually, I have the same age as independent Ukraine, so it's 30 years old independent. It's not that much in terms of history and in terms of development, as well as reconciling the culture, because we didn't have an opportunity as Ukrainians to develop our culture in calm and peaceful manner, because as long as we were starting to develop our state and our culture, something happened. It was whether war, whether it was something horrible as the USSR or something like that. Those things which have mutilated our identity in terms of self-identity. I mean, in terms of understanding ourselves as a separate culture, as the separate nation, and it keep happening all the time. Actually, right now we can see that as well.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, it wasn't an evolutionary way, it was revolutionary way, right? So we had a lot of waves of revolutions, and if you dive deep in our history, you can find out that is normal situation for us. but frankly speaking, it's hard to live this way.
So I would say that our culture is counterculture. All the time we were like, no guys, we will develop ourselves this way, no matter what you want from us.
Yeah, and one huge disclaimer I want to put in the beginning, because I tend to see and to hear from different sources that every time when you say USSR, you mean Russia, and when you say Russia, you mean USSR. I mean, in different articles, I saw it. If you Google USSR history, top links will be with the header Russian history. I really want to put this disclaimer, because it's not equal. USSR consisted of 15 republics that now we know as an independent countries, independent nations. We are speaking only about Ukraine. Maybe we will touch a bit other countries if we know something. Maybe, for example, I do know something about Georgia, or Belarus because our history is connected. But please be aware that Russia is is a nation, ethnic group, and it wasn't an entire USSR. So if you say, for example, about, I don't know, maybe about Red Army, you will say that Russians got to Berlin. It's Soviet army got to Berlin, not Russians, because in this army was people from different nations and from different ethnic groups. It is really important to remember, because this confusion can lead us to misunderstanding of different topics. So I wanted to put
there
it.
is a whole bunch of countries included in USSR. First of all, it was, of course, Russia, then Ukraine, then Belarus, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Kyrgyz, Tajikistan, Armenia, Turkmenistan, and Estonia. This all of these countries were a part of USSR. So, what unification of a culture are we talking about? Actually, because these are polarities. These countries are so different, with so different peculiarities of their cultures, which are not, in terms of culture, you cannot mix these countries in terms of culture, because they are extremely different. But Russia in particular have chosen two countries which are more or less close culture in development. It's Ukraine and Belarus.
Yes, and Soviet politic and Soviet way of governing, Soviet government was structured really centralized way. And all this republic were, let's say, reported to Moscow. So they was under Moscow. So all these countries, and of course, Ukrainian Republic, Soviet Republic, they couldn't do anything independently. Moscow had huge impact on everything what was going on in Ukraine. And we had this thing for 70 years during Soviet Union existed. So when Soviet Union collapsed, no one knew how to build a country, because everyone got used to, to report to Moscow and to do everything Moscow says. Moscow set plans, Moscow wrote books at school, Moscow said what to write in the media. So each aspect of your life was regulated. And just imagine one day, no one is saying you what to do. And you just don't know what to do. So in general, the life of regular people was planned in advance. You are born, you go to kindergarten, there you are listening how great was Lenin and Stalin and how great is the Communist Party. Then you go to school and you're learning the same stuff, how great is Communist Party, and you're living in the best country in the world and the most powerful country in the world, and we will beat America in a few years. So then you go to the university or a college, then you go to job. And actually, do you remember our parents said that when you finished, I just recalled it, when you finished the university, there was the process when you don't you could choose your job, your future job, only if you had really good marks. For example, my mom, she ended university with all good marks, and she could choose where to work. But other people, our students, were assigned to different factories, to different jobs, and no one asks you where you want to live and where you want to work.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's true. That they were assigning people to different spots of work, to different places of work, which is from one side, which was kind of great thing to do, because you know that if you are finishing university, yeah, or even like a college or something like that, it was called a technicum. Then you will have like 100% guaranteed work, job place, workplace. It doesn't matter whether will it be good or bad. That was a totally different topic, but you would be prescribed, I would say, to go to certain place of work. Yeah, and of course, if you were a good student, there's probably some kind of some
Possibility to choose.
yeah, there was some kind of like a good attitude from university to you, so they would let you choose they would let you choose the place of work. Unlike the doctors, because as I know, the doctors were sent like directly to the hospital, and that could be a hospital in a big city, or that could be a hospital in a small village, like with 30 persons with population of 30, but still they didn't have any choice, as I do understand. At all. It was like a good and bad at the same time, right? Because like you are losing your opportunity to choose, but you have the guaranteed workplace. Your job
But
is
you
guaranteed.
you can't even change. For example, I don't know, you were studying medicine and then you suddenly decide that you are not interested in it. So you can't even choose the sphere, and you can't even change anything. So I don't see anything good in it. As I remember, not to work was illegal.
Yeah, it was like law about tuniятство. I'm not sure. Parasitism. It was like it is a equivalent of
They
the
claimed, yes.
Tuniядец was the synonym of parasitism. It was the term which was quite a popular term in USSR. Yeah, and it was illegal. Once, if I do remember correctly, my father was returning from the army. And that was totally different world. That was like quite a harsh environment. Army is always harsh environment, but he was a conscript and he was carrying his service a lot. He had a lot of missions abroad and so on and so forth. Yes, USSR had a lot of missions abroad. Surprise, surprise. And he returned and he decided to take like several months, like 2 months or 3 months, like off, because he'd been through a lot there. He'd been through a lot of deployments and so on and so forth. And yeah, he told that, well, he didn't like Soviet Union at all. It was like it was a bad experience for him, and he lived most of his life, most of his young years in Soviet Union. after like 1 week, he returned from that conscription service in the army. People has come to my grandma's apartment and told, "Hey, you have to go to work."
Oh.
He was like, "Guys, I've been there, and there, and I lost so many friends. Could you give me a break for a certain time?" And they were like, "Nope. We will come in a week if you will not get the work, if you will not get assigned the working place immediately. You will go to jail."
Wow.
Yes. So he managed to have like rest for 1 month. He wasn't touched, but then he went back to his original work. He was working as the chef, as the cook. He studied that in in technicum in college. So he knew that was his specialization is technology of mass feeding, mass nourishment kind of stuff. So he knows all of the technical stuff in the food. So what calorific value should it be, and what menu to create. So he returned to work somewhere at the dining facility, like those big dining facilities in Soviet era, where everything was paid by kopecks, not even it's like cents. It was like cents. So he continued to work there, but basically he didn't have any opportunity to rehabilitate properly after his service to his country, to his motherland, which claimed that they care about people.
So Soviet Union politics didn't know this word as a humanism, so no one cared about any rehabilitation or any kind treatment of people. So it's just
about rehabilitation. Do you remember from childhood any former wounded soldiers, like people who received severe injuries, like they wouldn't have one, they would miss one limb or something like that. It seemed like they didn't exist in Soviet Union because they were hiding them. Actually,
yes, and actually, it's a fact that when Soviet Union hosted an Olympic Games in 1980, they just cleaned all cities, big cities, where everything was going to happen, from people with injuries, from alcoholics and anyone. They just closed them in jails or in hospitals or anything. They just, let's say, cleaned the environment from there was a term, I just can't recall it. There was a term that some, bad sort of people, they had to get rid of them.
They removed all of the invalids. That was the term. And I do remember in my childhood...
Unsocial element.
Unsocial elements. They were cleaning streets from unsocial elements, where the people with quite restricted abilities after participation in the war were included, and that was actually hard because you know what, I do remember my childhood. This was like way after, like 6 years after USSR had been broken down for different countries, and I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I saw a gentleman missing his leg, and I was like, what? Who is it? I was asking my mother, who is this? why he doesn't have a leg? Well, I was a child. I didn't have like proper understanding, but for many years after USSR has collapsed as a country, people with disabilities, with restricted abilities, were something like a unicorn. People would be afraid to talk to them, I do remember. People wouldn't know how to behave themselves near such people. And that was one of the consequences of USSR. It is full social isolation. They are isolated physically because nobody cared about them in terms of building, like to build a ramp, to build to keep the surface clean of different ledges and different structures which would prevent them from going out in public and moving around like a normal regular person, like a not normal, regular person. They were segregated physically and socially as well, because that was kind of stigmatized or something like that. That was something horrible has happened to the person, and this is what society does to them. Did actually. Right now it's a little bit different. There's still some problems we're struggling with as a country, as Ukraine, but still it is better right now. And another case, there was a case, I was probably like 16 years old. So I was in the university already. Yeah, I'm early bloomer. I was in the university and I was, there is like, you know, the big Raispolkom building. It is like a city council from Soviet era, and it was like a huge monumentalistic building with lots of steps. So all of the peasants would see that the government is like a big and scary thing. So nevertheless, after Soviet era, it was turned into the some kind of office building, like office to rent, you know, like a lot of companies were renting offices there and so on and so forth. But as all of the Soviet Union structures, it wasn't inclusive. Like not even there wasn't even a degree in inclusion for people who may not be able to walk all of those 100 steps up. Like, if you can't, you don't get access to government. That's it. Your problem. And there was a guy in a wheelchair, and that was amazing because he started to talk to me, and that was my first like full proper encounter with the person with disability. With a person with restricted ability to walk. And I was like, oh my God, you were so cool. He was so kind and he was so nice, and I was like, let's be friends. Let's be friends. Let's talk to each other. And he was like, hey, would you mind to like help me go up? Because like I was a big dude when I was 16, and I still am. And I was like, yeah, sure. How? Show me how do you usually do this? He was like, okay, grab this bar, pull me up, and I will hold there. There is a whole technological procedure, but that was I'm telling you, that was such an amazing experience. Actually, that was so kind of I don't know how to describe that. That wasn't bittersweet. That was a happy encounter. That like you haven't talked to certain type of people whole your life, and then you have the opportunity to talk, and it is pleasant experience. That was a life-changing experience. And let me highlight the point that I was 16 at that time. independent Ukraine was 16 at that time, and that was a still huge problem. That was still huge problem. Yeah, that was kind of a revelation.
Can you imagine that right now, just it's really hard even to process this information. I mean, the whole country politics was to hide the huge amount of people, to dehumanize them, to claim them as an unsocial element, and people just got used to this stuff, right? They got used to that there are no people with any problems around you, right? So it was a surprise to see person with disability. It was a surprise. It's strange. And somehow I want to say one more point, and somehow it's a pure magic that guy you met didn't lose his humanity. He was kind. You could, because I do understand if you won't be kind if you are hidden just because, I don't know, you can't walk. So come on,
you were ensured that you are a bad person by default if you are disabled, kind of stuff, or you have certain physical restrictions. Yeah.
And regarding this, actually, we had a lot of organizations in Ukraine that they started to check availability, let's say, of different buildings and different ways and public transport, public places, how are they accessible for people with restricted abilities. And unfortunately, yes, we had some government processes on it, but mostly it was organizations that made it better, right? But yeah, definitely we haven't finished yet.
Well,
but yes, it is one of transformation points.
I can add another part about the government. So there is a state transportation company called Kyiv Pass Trans. They built all of the tram stops and bus stops and so on and so forth. Yeah, and I was working with them. We were making some videos for them for advertisement of their works and their initiatives, and they have like in-state person with the sight loss. Person who cannot see as we all see, and the position, his job is to check all of the tram stops for availability and accessibility for people with the sight restrictions. So they construct the new stop, and he comes there after the construction is finished and checks all of the stop for ergonomicity, I would say. How is this comfortable for a person who is not able to see as clear as we all do, to move through
to navigate
through
right?
the station? Yeah, to understand, is there like a sensory and tactile plate in there? Is there a proper sound and so on and so forth? And that was actually for me, that was quite I was really happy that they really do have such an expert who comes and checks everything, and including they by default there are requirements for the construction, for availability of for people with certain movement restrictions. Yes, to come there, they construct. They do not test that because that is like a unified thing. unified standard for construction. And they've been working pretty good. They were doing a good job there.
And actually, it took a lot of years to convince these cave pastrons and different companies that provide the services and are run in public places to have these experts. So it took years, even maybe decades, to convince that it is the thing to do, right? So if we are coming back to this transformation, we have to remember that Soviet Union was existing for 70 years. It is 3 or 4 generations of people that just lost their humanity, that they don't care about anyone else except themselves. And it was a process to convince these companies to have this expert, to have some rules how to build constructions, how to run public places, and so on. So it was a process. Even you can think of it like just small part, but it's so huge, right? It's so important to have this, and
it is gigantic. It is enormous part of society actually in Ukraine, because I haven't seen.
No. I mean that it is obvious that, for example, bus station is supposed to be accessible for everyone, right? It is obvious from our point of view right now, and it is a small part of this. You can think of it like a small part that you have to have this expert or rules how to build, and you have to think about it, and you have to there was a process behind why you started to think about it. So you didn't think about it before, but it is obvious that it's supposed to be accessible, right? So it is strange. It is
it's still, there is still a huge field to improve, because have you seen that stuntman who was checking all of the subways, underground pathways, ramps for people in the wheelchairs? He was checking them for safety, and each ramp he was like falling because he couldn't go down. There are only 2 metro stations, or several metro stations, like I think the Red Line had like 5 of them, who those metro stations which are available for people with the movement and walking disabilities. And he was saying that, and that was like extremely funny, because you have to be tough to move through those ramps. You have to be like a super
like a
strong
hero, like a superhero,
Probably with with a certain amount of control above the gravity or something like that. Like you have to be able to control the gravity to go down on that. But people were still working. We're working on that. We, as the post-Soviet country, we are quite bad at flatness, especially at city centers. Like when the general flatness of the surface in the center is maintained, like in European at least capitals, I know that it is like center of the city center is always like flat. You don't have to step on something to go further. You just move.
No. But it depends on a landscape, because, for example, I don't know how to say it. One part of cave is on hills, so
no, there are still ways to maintain. To go up to hill.
Oh, in Budapest.
You don't have to walk there should be an opportunity for you not to walk by steps, but to use a ramp or something like that, no matter what hill it is. Of course, like, don't climb Mount Everest. If you're unable to. Well, there are still cases where you can climb Mount Everest, even though for example, one cannot walk. There were cases I know about those people, but still, in the city center, it is urban area. It's supposed to be comfortable. A lot of countries are failing to do that as well. So Ukraine, I would say, in a gray zone, because in some parts, especially Kiev, the enormous amount of job was done to make it safe and comfortable, especially for people on wheels, and some parts were like a horrible place.
In general, in Kiev we have, this higher town, let's say, and lower town. And if you are, for example, in a lower town and you are in a wheelchair, sorry, you won't see higher town.
You need
no,
assistance.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. And then, there are some places. You were right. You had a point. It's in a great area. Is in a great area, but gray area. Oh my God. So yes, but so it is changing, and it is a transformation, and we are still on the way. And yes, and as I said, our way is revolutionary, not evolution. I do remember the things that surprised. You said in the childhood you were surprised when you saw the person without a leg. I remember I was watching a TV set with my mom, and I don't remember the exact year. I was sort of 7, 8 years old, something like this. So it is 1997, 1998, something like this. So Kuchma was the president, and he announced that now we will have a market economy. And I do remember I said, and I asked my mom, what does it mean, market economy? My mom said, it means that we will have markets. Somehow I do remember this.
But we had markets before.
Yes.
But now it's gonna be official.
No. She meant regular markets that we saw, because it's not because she didn't know what it is market economy. She just joked, because definitely you won't explain to 8 years old what is market economy, right? So, but I really think she hardly knew what was it, because now if you think there wasn't such thing as private property in Soviet Union. So you didn't own your flat or your house.
Yeah, country owned that. Yeah, you were just like living.
Hard to imagine right now. It's so hard to imagine. So if you want to change a flat, yes, you don't sell your property and buy new. It is exchanging. So you have to find someone who will move to your flat, and you will move to that flat.
Yeah. Yes.
And it was a huge process. How to say it, when people started privatization, I guess, right? So it was a huge, it was it was a huge process of privatizations of even private property, right? So even factories, the different lands, right? So it was a huge process, and I do remember how my grannies were discussing it, and my parents, and there was a discussion: is it a good thing? to have a private property.
Yes, to own an apartment. I think we are moving towards that as well, because right now the situation in the market is such that you have to be extremely rich to afford the apartment.
Yeah.
Or you have to get into the basically in Ukraine you have to be an IT guy to buy an apartment actually. IT guy or
No, right now I think it is more affordable.
Well, right now, considering the war in Ukraine due to Russian aggression, yeah, it's like
You can buy a flat in the Kyiv center.
well, as I know, the
gosh, yeah.
prices have risen. It became actually more expensive to buy an apartment in Kiev than before.
Yeah, because yeah.
Yeah, I heard somebody.
This is.
I heard somebody was telling that from YouTubers about Kiev. I do not exactly. I do not remember exactly who was telling that, but that wasn't a joke. That was the statistics. I didn't check this.
Oh gosh.
This thing. So let's consider it a joke because.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think there will be the huge demand on apartments when all of this gonna end, when this aggression gonna end, when this war gonna end, and I really do expect the prices for apartments and houses in Kiev gonna rise actually.
I don't know. I'm not so good in this sphere. I don't know will it rise or not, but I think definitely constructors will be new IT specialists because so many houses and buildings are broken, and I think it will be, a huge place for building buildings, So even my sister's house, actually, we recently got news about her, her house and the whole neighborhood. Yes, we saw a video. It's a lot work to do there to rebuild everything.
She was living in a private house, right?
Hostomel.
No, she was living in private house.
In private. Yes, in
because
house.
As I know, in terms of construction, all of those buildings which are called Khrushchevka or Brezhnevka, there are different types. It's horrible if it gets bombed because of people, but it is good that it is bombed in terms of exploitation. Because actually the term of exploitation of those buildings has reached its maximum, and every of those buildings could collapse anytime actually, because they were they were constructed as the temporary living place for people, and they were planned during the Soviet Union. They were planned to be remodeled and redesigned later on. So they needed to place people somewhere, so they constructed those buildings. Yeah, and approximately exploitation rate was like 30 or 40 years.
Wow, I didn't know it actually.
Yeah.
So
right now we have an amazing opportunity to rebuild the homes for people in a safer manner, in a better manner actually, for them to live. But what cost? That's a different question. The cost is too high for that. It could be done, I guess, without fucking Russians attacking our country.
Well, No, thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah. Please don't save us. As
Yeah,
you were
please.
screaming,
No.
last podcast. Don't save us.
No.
Don't liberate us. We don't want to be saved.
Stop. Yeah, stop saving us. Stop saving us. Yeah. But one more legacy, we have huge amount of legacy from Soviet Union, but one more interesting thing, and it's even, it's like a quest. It was our bureaucracy. If you have to sign any document, or I don't know, get some registration,
You mean
or I don't know, to
Soviet
go to a
bureaucracy,
doctor,
right?
or to, and but it remained for some time. Yes, now we have DIA, and actually we have our government in our smartphones, and right now I have passport, every document in my smartphone, and everything I need
I
to
would tell
communicate.
no country in Europe would have that. They do not. They just don't.
I don't know this. Sorry, I didn't check how many countries, or do they have? I know Lithuania or Latvia did something in this sphere. I'm not sure. I'm not so deep in the topic, but most government services right now is in my phone. So I can do a lot. I can open a business. I don't have it, but if I had a driving license, it would be in my phone and everything. So it is a digital country in your smartphone. But before, it was a huge quest, to do anything. For example, to get an international passport, you have to bring a lot of documents, and you have. Do you remember this? We called it Angela Olegovna. We just called an abstract person that every time if you come to Angela Olegovna, she will say that you didn't bring some really important document, and you have to look for this document in room number 10. You go to room number 10, and there other Angela Olegovna will tell you that there is this form is not correct. You have to find other form in the room number 4. You go to room number 4 to another Angela Olegovna. that she sorry, it's lunchtime and she's not there, so you're waiting in the line. So it was a nightmare to deal with. To have any relationship with the government, it was a nightmare. To get pension, to get anything. It was built from the Soviet Union years to really people, maybe I don't know, maybe they wanted people to die in these lines, when they were traveling from Angela Olegovna to Angela Olegovna. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That was the idea of all of it.
Yeah, I guess, because it was a real nightmare. And I do remember now, when you enter the university, you have to go to a doctor, to your school, to take all your documents, to register in the campus. It was so many stuff to do, because you just enter the university. But when you finish your study, you won't. Oh, do you remember this? You won't get your diploma. And you can get your diploma only if library підтвердила. Oh God, sorry.
Approved.
I'm sorry. You could get your diploma only when library approved that you don't have any books and you didn't steal any books from the university. Do you remember this? You had a checklist, and to get your diploma, you had to go to your campus. I don't know. I lived in campus, so I don't know. Maybe.
Your dormitory,
so you have
to stuff, and then one of the points was the library.
Yes, one of the points. And without this sign from library, you won't get your diploma. You were studying for 6 years.
Yeah.
But the library will decide, will you have this diploma or not?
But if you stole the books, then why would you deserve a diploma? You stole the books from library. Return them, we will give you the diploma.
Okay, I agree. It was reasonable.
We will give you the master's degree, as usually they do. Because what's the master with the stolen books? What? Sorry, but no, you have to return them. Guys, please return books to the libraries. It really
but
matters.
No one ever took books in university's library, because when we were studying, we already had an internet, so it wasn't such a thing.
Because you were an IT student.
Yeah, in
technical
university.
You didn't take any books.
No, we didn't actually.
As the linguistics student, we had the IT part, applied linguistics. This is what Google Translate is, and all other stuff which are making our life easier. Of course, we were using our laptops, we were carrying our laptops all around, but still we had to go to the library and take some books because it wasn't available. They weren't available on the internet, which was weird. That was actually quite old and quite expensive books. Like maybe some of the first editions I remember we were taken from them. But our library, unlike your library, because I had an opportunity to compare that. Our library in my university, and especially for linguistics department, it was automated. So you come in, you insert your student card. There was a device in the wall. Then you go, grab the book, then you scan it like in supermarket.
Wow.
And you just leave. You take your ID, you take your student card, and you just leave. And you have 2 weeks from the moment you left the library. If you do not return, for some books it was 2 weeks, for some books it was 1 week, for some books it was like a day maximum. And with some books you couldn't leave the campus at all, because some first editions. And you just take it and leave. And if you not return the book back to the library in time, you will have a fee. It will automatically take from your internal student account. It will automatically take money and count it as a fee. Nice. That was such a system.
Really nice system, because we didn't have this system in our university library, and it was, fully Soviet Union library with Angela Aliyevna. You come there. So they didn't have any relevant books, information, magazines. I was studying information security, and there was no need to go to that library, because everything they had was, from Soviet era, with first chapter that said that Lenin and Stalin are the best guys in the world. So we really didn't use. I don't remember that anyone go to. Maybe some book would be relevant but I never took any book, but no, I did. I prepared some materials about Holodomor, and I found one book about Holodomor in that library. Whoa, interesting! I just recalled it
Yeah,
because
but that wasn't like a
information
profiled
security.
curriculum. That was the history of
Yeah.
Ukraine, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't computer
yeah.
science or something like that.
Nothing like this we had, and really, I think that Angela Olegovnas that were working there, they just got their salary for signing this checklist when you get in your master's degree and want to get your diploma. That's all that their
Such a
job
different
description, I guess.
experience. Such a
Yeah,
different experience, like 100% different due to the specialization. Yeah, because everything you need you can find on internet. But for me, for example, like for studying Latin, that was some parts. Most of the information was available on the internet, but some parts you have to you have to find that folio, that ancient folio, like roll that. And conjure the devil or something like that. Yeah, you can sniff it. You don't need to know the section in the library. You can sniff it. It has like a distinct smell, actually. So yeah, you just move by your nose, like. Okay.
Oh my God.
It smells like okay, 19th century. Okay, 18.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a small library, but very, very, very vibrant one. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and that was a private university, unlike the public universities we have. Like, that was a private one. So this is how we talk about war, right? War in Ukraine. Libraries. Have you guys been to libraries?
Yeah, but no, I think it is. I think that each this piece, that is our construction, yes, and we are made from all these things, these old libraries, this old bureaucracy, and when you see that you really can live different life, you really can have this digital document in your phone. You don't have to go to Angela Olegovna again, so you can get rid of her, right? So you can really change your life. You can really get rid of all this Soviet legacy, and that's how, it's my opinion, how regular people can feel it, can transform it, and can because you know what, we made this long way, right? And we are still on this transformational way, and it is, I really believe that it will take few more generations for us to forget all these things that we got used to from Soviet Union legacy, right? And it is important to highlight it, to speak about it, and because all this stuff, these libraries, right? That's from our life consists of this small stuff, our regular life.
Oh yeah,
so
our mentality consists of that.
Yeah, so that's how can we see this, because trust me, in Belarus or in Moscow, they still have these libraries, right, in general. So they didn't have this path that we had. So that is the main point, because actually, as much when I'm thinking about this Soviet legacy, I come to conclusion that the main thing is that I think maybe it was intentionally or not, that Soviet Union did everything to get rid of people's responsibility. As we started, that your life was planned before even you were born, right? So you didn't have an opportunity to take on responsibility. But independent life is impossible without this responsibility. And to learn, we really learned how to do this. What is responsibility?
How to be responsible and independent.
Yes, because if you remember, we said these revolutionary ways of transformation for us. If you remember, first it wasn't the first, but first revolution during Ukrainian independence, 2004. Actually, Yanukovych, first round of Yanukovych.
Oh, I hardly remember. I was like a seventh grader.
No, I do, because I was 14 and 15 or 15. I do remember that Orange Revolution, it was called. So what happened? It was a president election. It was two candidates, Yushchenko and Yanukovych. And in first round, they claimed that Yanukovych won. But it wasn't true, because there's, how to say it, there was a lot of fraud on these elections, so Maidan gathered.
The first one.
Yeah, the Maidan gathered, and people had this first feeling that they won. People managed to get rid of Yanukovych first time, and Yushchenko won that elections. And you know what? It was like Maidan gathered. People said what they want. They want Yushchenko to be a president, and everyone went to their houses, and that's it. So they were just waiting that life will change, So they continued to live their regular life with corruption, with Anjala Olegovnas and everything else. So, but then in 2013, when people died on Maidan, people realized that, wow, actually, it's not enough just to gather. You have to do it every day. You have to take this responsibility for your life, because it's your life. No one will do anything for you. That's how independence is built. So I think this thing is crucial for us. And can you imagine? You have to learn how to be a responsible person, Wow. Right now, it is obvious, yes, you have to be a responsible person. But after our Soviet past, it appears that is the thing that you have to learn.
I think it's not as much as you have to learn responsibility, but when you have to learn responsibility. When you are like 15 or 14 years old and you are learning responsibility, that is fine. But when you are 45 and you, for the first time in your life, learning how to be responsible, that's totally different thing, I guess. You have totally different perception of the situation and more or less different attitude to life. So that was the hard point for our people, to learn to be responsible when you are like 45 or 50, responsible not only for that portion which you was trained to be responsible for in Soviet Union, but to be responsible for your financial stability, to be responsible for keeping your knowledge up to date, to maintain your knowledge, to maintain your tone, your activity, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that what people were learning from scratch. They didn't know how to do.
Yes, to maintain how to maintain buildings even because people didn't know what companies are cleaning the territory. They didn't know that utilities can't be so cheap as we had it. Yes, you can't pay, I don't know, a few dollars for electricity and for water in your flat because it just can't be so. It was a huge step when people started to get together and to make this, I don't know how to translate it, organization that will maintain your building, and they took this responsibility even for them, for places where they live. So yes, it's maybe it is a key point, right? This responsibility stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true. So there was the whole bunch of new responsibility opportunities, I would say.
Yeah. Yes.
Some people didn't learn that even after 20 years. After that situation, after actually Soviet Union breaking down and collapsing on our heads. But some people have learned that too quickly, and they actually succeeded in a lot of spheres. But still, there is such thing as the Soviet mentality and Soviet attitude. The attitude and mentality of country which doesn't exist anymore. So it is very rudimental for current situation to have that mentality. It is very archaic, I would say, because this is not how the things work anymore. And a lot of people were learning, a lot of people in Ukraine were learning that in a hard way for last years. But right now they learned everything. They are ready to move on from their Soviet legacy, and they were always ready to move on. They just didn't know about that. Well, right now we are moving towards more freedom, towards more opportunities, towards more new towards more new energies and new possibilities for people.
Yes, and I do realize now that this Soviet mentality, and yes, the country that doesn't exist for 30 years, but this country still exists in some heads and in some even countries, let's say. I'm in Russia and Belarus, but even the thing that Soviet Union was a closed country, right? So you couldn't travel abroad. If you want to go, you couldn't travel to Europe. I mean, okay, not all Europe. It was like Soviet countries that you could go, but to go there, you had to have special, I don't know how to say it, special, you had to be a privileged person. And if you are a daughter or son of some diplomacy guy or something like this, it was a huge, it was huge thing to go abroad. It was closed country, and right now Ukraine is open country, and it is even hard to go it is really interesting to see how elder people first time go, for example, to Europe. It is so I love it so much because they have a lot of course stuff to discuss. They saw a lot. I don't know, some from my hometown, some people where they first time visited Europe, they always said, "Wow, the world is open. Wow." it was a thing that the world is open. It was strange thing.
It's not like they didn't know that. They just
Yes.
realized that. They understood that it is really true.
Yeah, because they had this mentality in their head that the country is closed and to go abroad it is impossible and extremely expensive. And they had this mentality, but suddenly all inclusive was available for Ukrainians, and they started to go to Egypt or Turkey. But when they started to go to Europe, when we had bezviz, non-visa, how to say it? We don't need visa to go to Europe. It started in 2017 or 16, I don't remember exactly. Yes. So when people started to travel to Europe, they understood that it is not a big deal. You can just travel. It's okay. And yes, the world is open. It is really a nice thing that we had. And right now, I do remember some in our childhood on a TV we saw some shows when mostly some Russian singers and dancers were the most famous, and this whole space was fooled by them. I don't know, some Kirkorov, Pugacheva, and so other singers, Russian singers. But right now, I can't even imagine why we were watching it and were listening to it, because we have a lot of our bands, singers that are famous all over the world, and right now you do understand what does it mean to be open, right? All Europe knows who is Jamala, because of Eurovision and because of her huge, incredible talent. All Europe knows. Okay, Klitschko, they knew. They knew about Klitschko brothers before, but Ruslan, even Hard Kiss, and a lot of great people. They show Ukraine, and they show new Ukraine. They present new Ukraine, and I like to see it and to watch how this thing is changing. Yes, we becoming more open. Right now, we are definitely so open. We don't have even any border on our west side. I just crossed a border, and no one asked me anything. Just ask me to show a passport, and that's it. So yes, it's nice to see.
Yeah, it always it always is a pleasure to belong to some situations, to some communities. Okay, what is the word of the day, Любовь?
I was thinking, and I realized that there is one thing that I really miss, because I'm not in Ukraine right now, and I don't have an opportunity to make it even here. But for now, I will manage. So this word don't need any translation. This word need an explanation. Today's word of the day is борщ. And please, never call it a soup. It's not a soup. It's борщ. The most delicious борщ soup in the world is борщ.
Never call it a soup.
I really miss it.
I would suggest our listeners never call it a borscht, as they usually spell it. It's not borscht. It's borscht.
Yeah. Borscht.
The last sound is ch, not. That's how it is called, and this is originally Ukrainian Ukrainian dish, which is extremely delicious. You should try one. If you haven't tried one yet, you should try. At least you will know it. You will know whether you like it or not. But in 70% cases, I would guarantee you that you would love it. You would love it.
Sorry, I will correct you. Igor. Sorry, there is no way that you don't like borscht. There is no way.
There are people who are vegan. There are people who are vegetarian.
You can have vegan borscht. It's not
borscht.
obligatory to have meat. Okay, I agree, but it's not obligatory to have meat in it. But I do remember one YouTube video. I saw it really long time ago about some travelers from Canada, and they were traveling around the Europe, and they stayed in Kyiv just for 2 days, just a transit country. So they didn't plan to stay in Ukraine. They just stayed in Kyiv for 2 nights, and definitely they went to eat. And they tried borscht, and they stayed for 2 weeks. So if you have this opportunity, just go to any Ukrainian restaurant. I do know and I do believe that you can find it in any country. Trust me, you will find borscht. And please try it. It is really incredible dish, and I do miss it very much.
Yeah, literally, it is available probably everywhere. It is available everywhere. Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you guys for listening to us. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you find it interesting. Please, if you have any comments, write it down below. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and wait for us in the next episode. Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. See you soon.